Okay, so a lot of times people will say, hey, you should stop looking at pornography, and these are the reasons why you should stop looking at pornography. And they go through something like that. But it's very rare for someone to actually offer help. Okay, so you've convicted me of something that I'm doing. You've convinced me that I need to change. So how do I do that? And that's what I want to look at for this. First off, make a list of why you want to stop. Okay, I want to get off pornography. Why? I'm not disagreeing with you. Getting off of pornography is a great idea. Pornography is a terrible thing. But you need to know from the start why you're doing it. And this needs to be something that you are so convinced of that when you review it throughout the next months and years, that it will encourage you and say, yes, that is what I'm working towards. Oftentimes pornography can make you feel very hollow and fake and shallow and like you're yelling in an empty tube. And for those times when you don't feel anything, is this going to be something that will mean something for you when you literally don't feel anything? Why do you want to stop? And be honest with yourself. Well, I want to stop to make my girlfriend happy or my wife happy. Well, newsflash, if that's your reason, it's not going to work. If your reason for not doing something is someone else, probably not going to make it, because it has to be something that you can own. It has to be something that you can really relate to. And let's say you break up with that person. Let's say that person dies. Will there be any incentive for you to keep going? You have to do it because you want to stop. You have to stop doing it because of the negative effects, okay, or health problems, or mental problems, or emotional problems, or spiritual problems, or whatever. You need to decide why you actually want to do it and make a list that actually means something to you. Don't make a list to try and impress people. Make a list to be honest with yourself. Why do you really want to stop? Second off, you've been looking for a while, and it will take some time to stop looking. See, pornography is kind of like a drug, because when we look at it, it offers it as a high. But just like anything with, let me use this, just like any kind of an addictive behavior, it starts out something like this. Okay, let's say, let me put it over here. Let's say this is where you are here, and you do it and it offers you a high, but then you end up worse off, and so you keep doing it and it keeps giving you highs, but eventually you get below the line. And what that means is even when you're doing it, it's not offering you relief like it did at first. So you keep getting stuck in the same routine, trying to make yourself feel happy, but that never actually happens. So you keep doing it to feel happy, but then you don't feel happy, so you do it some more. See what I mean? It's very similar to like an addictive behavior. It teaches your brain. And here's the thing about how our brains work. It's very, very fascinating. Our brains, the more we do something, the more our brains tell us to do it and that we need to do it and that kind of stuff. And so we kind of get ourselves into ruts by making a decision, a lifestyle, and a habit. And before long, before you know, you're stuck in this continual process, and this is controlling me. I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be like this. And so we think we can instantly solve the problem overnight. Well, I've decided that I want to stop, so why can't I stop? Okay, well, that's cute and all, but the majority of people who want to get off pornography are not going to be able to get off pornography overnight, especially if you've been doing it for a long time. If you look at one time, you can sometimes, okay, get out of it. But if you've been looking for a substantial amount of time, and by that I mean anywhere over like a week or two, let alone years, it's going to take a long time for you to break the habit. So just accept that. Okay, it is going to take time. Don't get in a rush. This is a long uphill battle. If you treat it like it's a single battle, and that single battle will win the whole war, you're doomed to fail. And then when you fail, you're going to go to pieces and you're going to just quit altogether. You can't look at it like that. You have to see it as this is a long battle, and I'm here to win it, which means no matter how many times I fail, I'm getting up and going. Which brings me to the third mark there, accept that you will fail. I'll never look at pornography again. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Now, you don't have to, give up, and you don't have to, well, I was going to look at pornography anyways, I might as well look at it. You don't have to be fatalistic about it. But at the same point, there has to be some point where you're honest with yourself. I'm going to fight, I'm going to try, but I have to accept that I'm going to fail somewhere in there. Between now and the point that I'm off of pornography, I will fail. So then that brings us to the question, well, will I ever really get off of pornography? Maybe it's a waste of time. Of course you'll get off of pornography. But it's going to take years, not moments. You have to decide before you ever fall to get back up. You have to decide to not quit before you even mess up. So the method that I used to get out of pornography is actually a lot less stressful than a lot of people make it. People think this, okay, I made a decision to get off pornography, so I'm going to never, ever, ever struggle again. See, pornography in our minds we tell ourselves it's a victimless crime. It's not, but we tell ourselves it's a victimless crime because we do it in private or in the safety of our houses or whatever. And so that kind of tells us, hey, it's all good, when it's not. And so then we just kind of soften the blow to ourselves. Hey, at least I'm not doing drugs. And so because we soften the blow to ourselves, it makes it where we don't stick to our goals. So a little real quick two-step process that you're going to increase throughout the coming weeks. First off, delay looking at pornography for 5 minutes. And I'm dead serious. 5 minutes. Go ahead and look at pornography, but wait 5 minutes. Set a timer on for 5 minutes and tell yourself, I can look at pornography when that timer goes off. So you're teaching yourself not to have instant gratification. And you might say, now hold on, you're telling me I can't look at pornography? At first. Because you're trying to break a habit, you're going to have to slowly work a new habit in. You can't just stop doing something in your life and nothing will fill that vacuum. You have lived, this is how you've compartmentalized your life. Well, if you're trying to take something out of that set system of your life, it's not just going to like, oh, boop, close the gap. No, there's going to be this gap here, and where there's a gap, what is it, the saying, devil's not devil's in the details, but idle hands are the devil's playthings. You can't just have this block of free time, so to say, where you normally did pornography. You're going to have to fill that with something else. So within that process, the first step to filling it with something else is to simply delay it. Because I'll tell you something, if you can delay it for 5 minutes before you look at pornography, if you can delay it 5 minutes, you will eventually be able to stop altogether. Okay, so with that being said, realize that there is a problem here. Don't say, oh, I can stop anytime you want, because no, you can't. You can't. And so you need to address it, because if you do work on it, then you can. But if you never try, then you won't. It's a kind of, I think it's called a catch-22. So then the second step of this very easy process, switch to softer pornography. Let's say, for instance, you look at gangbang, a bunch of people having sex together. Go from that to just 2 people. Okay, now let's say you've been on that for a while. Go from 2 people to maybe just 1 person masturbating or something. Okay, so now you're at that. Now go to the next thing, which would be probably something along the lines of 1 person just talking dirty. Okay, now we've backed up from seeing a bunch of nudity, just a little bit of nudity, to now not even nudity, just somebody talking dirty. Okay, now things are starting to look better. Now that we're at that, now we can back up to even artificial pornography. And what I mean by this is cartoon. Switch to cartoon pornography. Now that you're on cartoon pornography for a while, then take the big step of not being on any pornography whatsoever. Now, if you are married, you should be substituting this time that you would have been looking at pornography with being intimate with your wife. Or husband, if you're the wife. But either way, it's going to be a process. Now, if you are married, I would highly encourage you to be honest with your spouse and to let them know that you have been looking at pornography. Do not try and get them to watch it with you. And let them know that you are struggling, but that you're trying to stop. Okay? Now, that's going to make things very rocky. Especially, there's something that happens when a man tells his wife that he's struggling with this. It's going to hurt her. It's going to hurt her a lot. And in a way, that's good. It's good that it hurts her, because when you see her hurt because of your poor decisions, it's great incentive to stop. But let me tell you this, if you try and stop without taking anybody into your confidence, you're never going to stop, because sin thrives in secrecy. Okay? If it was easy to just self-control and stop yourself, you would have years ago. But you haven't. So what does that tell you? That you don't have the strength. Well, I'm strong enough. No, you're not. No, you're not. Just stop lying to yourself and be honest with yourself. You need to take somebody into your confidence. And if it's your wife, you don't need to tell her every single time that you mess up and every single time that you fail. And I know that sounds like, so you want me to keep secrets from my wife? No. But she doesn't need to be torn down by hearing every single time that you made a moral mistake. Okay? To a woman, looking at pornography is equivalent to cheating. In a guy's mind, it's not like that. But to your wife, she's going to see it like that. So you have to, if she's going to be your confidence partner, accountability partner, whatever you want to say, if she's going to be that person, you need to be real and honest, but don't do things that you know is just going to tear her down, because this is going to be a battle that goes on for years. And in the span of years, straining that is going to eventually cause divorce, because women cannot stand the idea of you constantly getting gratification from someone else besides them, especially if you make slower progress than some other people. So, look at it like this. The grand majority of men look at pornography. Some statistics say 90-something% of the American population is looking at pornography. If you want to stop, you are actually going against the flow of what most men do. Most men are totally okay with getting instant gratification for themselves and putting themselves first in any relationship. So when you make the decision to stop looking at pornography, it's not going to be an easy thing. It's going to be a thing that most men who try fail. So you really have to make sure that you're grounded for this. You really have to make sure that you're plugged in. If you're not part of a group or organization, get involved with a group or organization. Church is a great choice, but if you're not a religious person, maybe you're atheist or whatever, get involved in something, for goodness sakes. Which ultimately, there has to be something spiritual to keep you from pornography. Because if you see it as a moral problem, well, then you're going to have a good reason to stop. But if you don't see it as a moral problem, if it's in your mind, if it's something just like driving your car too much, it's not really a big deal, you're not really going to have great incentive to stop. It needs to be something that you see as a big deal. So there needs to be some kind of a spiritual element to this. And some kind of spiritual element that allows you to get strength for the fight, not something that beats you up. So those two main steps there. First off, delay looking at porn for 5 minutes. The next week, delay it for 10 minutes. The next week, delay it for 20 minutes. See what I mean? Build up that time. What you're doing is you're teaching yourself self-discipline. I don't gratify myself just because I want to gratify myself. I don't gratify myself just because I want to gratify myself. I don't see what I mean? Eventually, you start to switch your focus. It's not about you anymore. And then now you can start putting it towards other things. When you first start, you're going to think about stuff like this. Okay, pornography causes erectile dysfunction. It causes me to feel bad. I see it as a sin, whatever. Okay? But then eventually, which it is a sin, but then eventually you're going to want to look past that, past yourself, past your own suffering to someone else. Pornography is a main cause of sex trafficking. Pornography is a main cause of child abuse and child pornography. So you might say, I don't look at child pornography. It's no different because you're contributing to it. Well, tell yourself all you want to, but that's the truth. So then eventually you're going to want to go beyond that and make it a little more personal. I want to stop looking at porn because this hurts God. This hurts my wife. This hurts my kids. Yes, it rubs off poorly on your kids when you look at pornography. Well, what do you mean? You act different on pornography than when you're not. You're more short-tempered, you're more aggressive, you're more one-sided about stuff. There's just a whole lot that goes with that, okay? Next off, practice routines and daily discipline in other areas. Get up at a set time every day. Take a shower every day. Shave or whatever. Just get yourself in a routine that you can stick to. And then when you're tempted to look at pornography, you can say, look, that's not in my schedule. This is for later. And then eventually you can start actually segmenting a time of your day to look at pornography. And then as you slowly are teaching yourself to delay looking at pornography for 5 or 10 minutes or 20 or 30, eventually that time you're going to be able to just reallocate to something else, and you're not going to have time to look at pornography. See, the problem is, it's not so much, don't look at it as I want to no longer have the desire to look at pornography. Say it as I want to make it where I no longer have the opportunity to look at pornography. We want to be strong in ourselves, that we can just decide to stop doing something, and that's just the way it's going to work. But that's not really the way it works. And so we need to be real with ourselves about that. Work daily discipline. Instead of eating whatever you want whenever you want, only eat at set times, and don't stuff yourself when you eat. How is controlling how you eat going to affect your looking at pornography? Pornography is a habit of no self-control. You want, so you take. You look, so you take. If you want to stop gratifying yourself, you're going to have to teach yourself to do it in other areas. Because if you're trying to stop, I'm going to stop doing drugs, but I'm still going to sit around all day and not work and hang out with people who do drugs, and how long do you think you're going to be able to stay off work? First off, you're going to substitute drugs. You're going to substitute drugs for something else that's not healthy for you, like food. And then eventually, because of your lack of self-control, you're going to either get back into drugs or get back into something else. Jesus said it in the example of demon possession. He said, if a demon is cast out and the house is put in order, they're just going to come back and it's going to be worse. And the same applies to any kind of an addiction. If you just try to get rid of an addiction and you don't put anything in the place, you're going to go back to the same addiction and worse. Okay, so keep in mind about these things. Don't tempt yourself. For instance, being home alone with the internet. I can't stop looking at pornography. What the heck are you doing surfing the web on your computer by yourself at your house alone in the middle of the day? What are you doing? That's how you try. That's how you get into porn in the first place. So don't tempt yourself. Next, get rid of easy fixes. Okay, smartphones, for instance. Where it's just right there at the drop of a hat, you have access to pornography all day. Well, I can't live without my smartphone. Try it. I did. I have a flip phone, a crappy flip phone. It cost me $20. My phone bill went down astronomically. Evidently, when you're not paying for data, your bill isn't that high. And evidently, when you don't spend money on an $800 phone, you have more money to spend on other things you actually need. So get rid of the smartphone. I know everybody's got one, but you don't need one. Trust me, life will go on without having a smartphone. It has for me. And it was a big step. In fact, I was so hell-bent on getting out of pornography that I took my iPhone and I literally smashed it. I made sure that I couldn't possibly go back. I made sure I can't go back. There's a story about I don't really want to get lost here in history, but basically this guy was, once again, I know some of you are going to know this story already. This guy was taking going to conquer a new land, and when he got to the shore, he burned the boats down that he got there with. And that's exactly the kind of mindset you have to do with breaking an addiction like pornography. You have to say, I'm burning the fleet. I'm burning my boats. I'm not going back. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm headed. This is what my purpose is here. Okay? So get rid of all those easy fixes. Install pornography blockers. There's a lot of free pornography blockers, and even if there weren't, there's a lot of ones that don't cost a whole lot. Put on parent guides on your computer, parent blocks. Put on internet block from your internet. You can change it where you don't have access to internet 24/7. Put on firewall. Put on things where you're not allowed on your internet browser to look up high risk things. Maybe block certain sites like Pornhub. Maybe block certain keywords like XXX. Eventually, you're going to make it so hard and such an inconvenience to try and work around all these pornography blockers that it's going to be quicker and easier to just not look at porn. See, there's always ways to get around it. You get a porn blocker, trust me, you'll find another way out. There's always ways to get around pornography. So eventually, you're going to make it so inconvenient where it's taking you so long to try and figure out how to get around it. or it's eating up so much time to take it down and then do your thing and put it back up, that eventually you're just going to wear yourself out and you're going to say, ugh, I just don't want to look at pornography because I don't want to go through that hassle. Take away the pleasure element of it. If you are looking at porn, it's a pleasure thing. So if you make it uncomfortable to do that thing, well, you're not going to want to do it. Because eventually your mind's going to start telling you, hey, this isn't fun. And that's going to make it easier. If something's not fun, you're not going to want to do it. Like, you know how much I want to take a gun and shoot my hand? Well, not a whole lot, because that's not going to be very fun. And if it's the same thing with pornography, if you make a habit where it's inconvenient, and it makes it where it's harder to keep the habit than to just drop it, it's like water. Water goes where the least amount, where it's easiest access. Or if you've got a swamp cooler, circulated air. If you have two vents, one is directly in front of the swamp cooler, and the other one has to go down and around. Well, which one's the air going to come out of? The one with the least resistance. Water is going to flow downhill. That kind of an idea where, make it where the natural result is that you don't do it. So install porn blockers, find accountability partners. I mentioned that. When you feel horny, do things that kill the mood. Do things that kill the mood. Take a cold shower. Go for a walk. Get that energy out. Victory is not about never struggling, but delaying the inevitable for long enough that it is no longer inevitable. Look at it like this. I'm going to eventually mess up if I let my guard down. So I have to just keep up the fight for long enough. I just have to delay it for long enough that something else will come up. Well, if I can just delay it for 30 minutes, my wife will be home. Problem solved. Establish patterns. For people, there are always certain times or activities that you have learned and made into a habit. For instance, every day at this time I play a video game. Well, this video game always makes me horny, so I go masturbate. You see what I mean? So either stop playing the video game at that time. See what I mean? Find out what the habit is, what the cycle is. Keep a journal. What precedes me looking at pornography? And then once you have figured out what the cycle is, then you can break the cycle. Find a way of releasing your energy, not just sexually. I'm talking about physically. If you're too tired to masturbate, well, you're going to go to sleep instead of masturbating. I mean, this is easy logic here. Realize there's nothing wrong with masturbation, just with pornography. Unless you are a chronic masturbator where it's a constant thing and it's taking up all your time and energy, well, then that's not healthy. But there is nothing wrong from a Christian standpoint about excuse me. There is nothing wrong from a Christian standpoint about masturbating. The Bible never said anything against that. The things that the Bible talked against was lusting. You might say, well, how do you masturbate without lusting? It's possible. Trust me, it is possible. And when you have built up energy, there's nothing wrong with releasing that energy, if you get what I'm saying. So, oftentimes we kind of equate the two together and we make it more difficult than it needs to be. I want to get off pornography, so I'm going to do it all right now. I'm never going to masturbate ever again. Well, hold on. That's not going to work. And when you fail, you're going to feel like a complete failure, and then you're not going to try anymore. So there's nothing wrong with masturbation. Learn hobbies that get you out of the house. Don't play video games as a hobby. Go for a walk as a hobby. I don't know. Think of something. Go for a bike ride. Take up gardening. Whatever. I don't care. Just do something that is a hobby that's outside the house. And as a follow-up to that, make new friends. If your friends that you have you can't hang out with them at the times that you need to be away from internet access, well, then find some friends that are. Okay, next off, get a job. If you are not working, you're going to have a lot of downtime, and you're going to have all this built-up energy. So get a job or do something, And here's the thing. You will do something. You will either spend the time doing this, that, or the other thing. So sometimes people say, I just want to take a break from this. You're going to spend the time doing something. Let it be something good that actually profits you. So if you don't do that something, you'll do something else. There's no such thing as blank time in your calendar. Eventually, you'll fill it up with something else. And yeah, I understand taking breaks from things, but remember where postponing the inevitable ends and actually reinventing yourself begins. Also, focus on the negative side effects of pornography. Okay, yes, I'm going to feel really good for a very short time. And then I'm going to feel terrible for a long time because I messed up again. It's a sin, so I'm going to have to go back to God again. I'm going to have to go back and you know, I don't want to always be apologizing to God for the same thing. Now you might say, well, that's a terrible way to look at it. Well, yeah, maybe so, but here's the thing you need to do. You need to give yourself some grace. You're going to say some stupid prayers over the next couple of weeks, over the next couple of months, over the next couple of years. One stupid prayer that I had is, God, just take it away. Not that God can't do that, but the majority of times he won't, because it's in those trials and temptations that God is able to grow character in us. That's why oftentimes praying the gay away doesn't work. It just doesn't. So, but focus on the negative side effects. Think about, you know, how that's somebody's kid. If you're a father and you have a daughter, this really did it for me. I started thinking about those girls in the porn videos being my daughter, and how somewhere out there they have a mother and father who care about them, and just how sick that is, that we take what's not ours to take. And that was a big wake-up call for me. Remember, it will make you feel worse, not better. Remember that that's a person. You don't treat people like that. You don't walk all over people and just use them for your own personal pleasure and then throw them away. That's not how relationships work. That's not how people should work. That's not the kind of person you want to be. That's gross. That is gross. You're looking at someone naked, or you're looking at someone naked with someone else. That's not meant to be public knowledge. Remember, none of it is real. Pornographies are some of the most fake things in the entire world. I would say Star Wars is more realistic than pornography. Everything about it is fake. Women don't really act like that in sex. Men don't really act like that in sex. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I'm having sex, I'm very tired. Remember, it won't last long, and you regret it. Your regret will last longer than the pleasure that you get. There's a band called Project 86, and how they just said it was 6 seconds of defeat, 6 years of agony. And I think that pretty much summarizes it. You know, when I first started on pornography, I was 9 years old, and I could see their faces in my head when I closed my eyes. And now I'm 27, and I've forgotten most of their faces, and that bothers me. I feel like when I could remember their faces, that somehow it made it more okay. But in time, as they were no longer people, they were just objects, and they served their purpose, and then I did away with them, and now they're out of my head. And there's a part of me that wishes I could remember every single one of them. There's a few that stick out still that I remember, and that I'm still haunted by in dreams and just in my eyes sometimes when I close my eyes. That's not a good thing, and it retards growth. It retards maturity. See, when you're a kid, you're not supposed to... I mean, obviously there's a more practical thing about, you know, there should be some kind of a build-up for sex, obviously. But then it's just not natural for a kid to be looking at pornography like that. It's just not natural. It retards the growth. And there's a certain level of intimacy that comes in a marriage that took me years to recover. Years to recover. Because I looked at porn. And I'll say this. I grew up in the church, and their big thing was don't sleep around before marriage. And that's true. When you sleep with someone, there's something special and there's a certain connection. A lot of people can't measure up to that standard of not having sex, but if you can, it's just a great thing to share that intimacy with one person. But I will say that I think pornography did more harm to me than sleeping around ever could. Pornography left such deep wounds that I didn't even see until I was off of it. So, remember, you don't have to do it. It just feels like you do. Physically, you don't have to. You can not do it. Blue balls is not a medical emergency. There's no medical emergency that if you don't have sex, you will die. It'll be okay. Read books, get more advice, do research, see what people say about breaking habits, and treat it as though it's serious, because it really is. Even if it doesn't feel like it's serious, it really is. Find something to be passionate about. Find something that is something that you can really care about. For me, I love history. I love music. I study some ancient languages. I love that. That's just great. I just absolutely love that. And it's something I can be passionate about. And it's something that can carry me. And it's something that can take my concentration. And it's something that if I'm struggling, I know I can always be in the mood to do that. So I hope that this has helped. I really hope that it helps. Really, I do. And don't give up. Don't give up.